Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. Our guest today is Major Brad Wells, Chief Deputy of the Madison County, Illinois Sheriff's Office. Major Wells was invited here today to speak about two areas of great public concern: child abductions and the growing threat from drug addiction and drug death. The Major is also a Deputy Commander of the St. Louis Area Metropolitan Major K Squad, Commander of the Madison County Child Abduction Response Team, and the District 1 Commander of the Child Death Investigative Task Force. Major Wells, welcome to Conversation.
Thank you, Lee.
Let's start in the child abduction area, then we'll move over to drugs in the second part.
Okay.
First, how did you happen to become involved in that? What was going on the street that brought you to be involved in child abductions?
The National Center of Missing and Exploited Children started a program that they call CART, which is a Child Abduction Response Team. And they have protocols in place, they have training in place. The training takes place nationwide at different various locations, at different various dates. They don't offer it continuously every 52 weeks throughout the year. Mm-hmm. The training came to the St. Louis area, and I went in and spoke to Sheriff Hertz about the possibility of forming that team. Obviously, Sheriff Hertz gave the green light to push forward. The disciplines that you have to have involved in that, they ask you to have 12 different people on your team that when you come to the training, and it's a requirement that the 12 people are not law enforcement solely. So with our team, we enlisted different professionals through the state's attorney's office. We actually have a member from ConocoPhillips on our team. We have our emergency operations director and his assistant on our team. We have a assistant school superintendent from Roxana on our team. Along with various law enforcement, we have our director of the Child Advocacy Center. We also have a family ministry director that's all went to this training. They gave of their own time, went and spent all week long, Monday through Friday, in downtown St. Louis for the training that was put on through Fox Valley for the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children.
What was the objective of the training?
The objective of the training was to recognize and raise awareness into what you're going to deal with and what your community is going to deal with in the event of a child abduction. And it also encourages and puts plans in place for law enforcement, or teaches you to put those plans in place in the event you would have an event like that in your area. In this case, it would be the county. So from there, we took the 12 originating members that went to the training, and that was in May of 2009 when we went through that training. And since that time, we have held a volunteer day, we called it, in August of 2009, that we had August of 2010, that we had the volunteer day. And at that time, we signed up over 400 people that raised their hands and said, in the event you would have a child abduction, we would be a volunteer. And we've credentialed those members. We have maintained their names, phone numbers, email contacts. In the event we would have something today, we're not 100% ready, because I don't know that we'll ever be 100% ready. But we are by far much better off now in Madison County as far as the investigation and the response to a child abduction than we were prior to going to this training. So it's something that we're very proud of at the Sheriff's Office.
Now, the people who are abducting children, is this child being taken by strangers mostly, or by someone that knows the child?
Most child abductions are done by a family member or someone known to them. But obviously in this area alone, you can take a look at different cases where you do have the stranger abduction. With Sean Hornbeck, Ben Owenby, Alyssa Meyer. Those cases alone are reason enough for law enforcement to sit up and take notice that the day that we need to get ready for a child abduction is not the day that it happens. And we are very progressive and very proactive in what we try to do, whether it's a child abduction, drug enforcement, or those type things. And this is just another area where we want to address the problem before it happens.
Mm-hmm. Does this happen very often?
I have never been involved in or had to investigate a stranger child abduction. Mm-hmm. And I'm very thankful for that. But it's one of those things that could happen tonight. It could happen tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I think the general public would expect members of law enforcement, especially the senior members of law enforcement, to be prepared for that in the event it would ever happen.
Now, as I understand, there's like a protocol. The first thing that happens before an Amber Alert goes out, and by the way, isn't Amber Alert something on January 13th? Or?
Ironically, January 13th, this Friday, is National Amber Alert Awareness Day. Mm-hmm. And the reasons for that is basically just to raise awareness of what would happen in the event that a stranger abduction or whatever type of scenario
Amber,
may
this
be.
is actually for some child.
Amber Hagerman was a victim of murder. She was riding her bicycle in the Arlington, Texas area and was abducted and murdered. And at that time, that was 10 years ago in 2006. So.
And there was no protocol at that time.
There was no protocol at that time. And at that time, they started to establish the Amber program, and it has spread nationwide.
Mm-hmm. So now we have these things called Amber Alerts, which I suspect most people who are listening to this have heard of that before. But before an Amber Alert can be put out on the street, law enforcement has to confirm that this has actually happened?
Right. Very quickly, you need to verify that it is a stranger abduction or a unique family type situation or someone that is known to them. Mm-hmm. The protocol calls for 17 years of age or younger. Also that you would have descriptive information that you can put out there for the general public to look for. The description of the clothing that the child was wearing. The description of possibly a suspect vehicle. So there is a certain amount of criteria that you need to meet, but it's not a total requirement that all of those things be met before that Amber Alert is issued.
Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden this thing just shows up on billboards, or is this the team that you were talking about building?
Well, no, the Amber Alert program is a cooperation between transportation authorities, law enforcement, and broadcast authorities. Obviously, then you're looking at TV, radio, road signs, rest stop areas, those type things, and also law enforcement and the communication avenues that law enforcement has.
Is it true that the first 24 hours is the most critical time?
Actually, the first 3 hours is the most critical time. If you look at the statistics of stranger abductions, that the child is murdered within the first 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. Now, I notice that you have been very careful to divide stranger and relative abductions, someone that the child knows. And you've indicated that, like if the non-custodial parent comes and grabs the child, that's not an Amber Alert situation?
Right, most of the time it's not. Now there maybe is those shades of gray, so to speak, to where that may fit the criteria depending on the mental state of the party that has the child, depending on the situation and the history there of that person that has the child. That person may be deemed violent. Mm-hmm. Those are things that we definitely sit up and take notice to. I would never rule out that a family member, and it's happened before, that a family member abducting a child would not qualify for the Amber program, because it does happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do have sometimes somebody goes bonkers and grabs their kid, and or like, I guess grandparents have been involved in this sometimes too. There was a case recently with some country singer woman, didn't she? There was like some court battle, and she just took her child from, I think, her mother was the custodial parent, and
that is
took
correct.
the child away.
That is right, and we deal with those things.
But that's
family
not
members,
that's not an Amber Alert situation necessarily, then.
Right. What I know about that would not qualify for the Amber program. And the reason that there is criteria in place for the Amber program, that if you issue an Amber Alert on everything where the father and the mother have separated or divorced and there's custody problems and the father's taken the child, if you issue an Amber Alert on every situation like that, then the original reasons that Amber was established would get watered down, and people wouldn't pay attention to it anymore. If you see an Amber Alert being issued, sit up, take notice, because there's something serious going on.
Well, that's good advice to the public, because I think already people are started getting jaded to the idea, oh, another Amber Alert.
Right.
And you're saying that this doesn't happen except in really exceptional cases.
Exactly, and that's the reasons why the protocols are put in place, is for people to sit up and take notice when they are issued.
Is there anything else in the child abduction area you want to talk about before we move on to the drug enforcement?
We can move on.
Okay. Let's see, a number of months ago, the coroner, Steve Nunn, was sitting right there in your chair, and at the last 5 minutes I said to him, hey, is there anything you want to talk about we haven't talked about? And boom, he just hits me with this this long list of heroin deaths in Madison County that he's been dealing with, and that I was completely caught off guard. I'd not heard a thing about that. That situation is corrected now, and I'm really pretty well versed, but from a law enforcement point of view, I'd like you to talk about what is going on in the community and what's being done to prevent more death and more addiction.
I can start by saying this is more of a problem than, as far as a drug problem, than I've ever seen in my entire career of law enforcement. The overdose rate continues to spike. The avenues in which we're dealing with that problem are more serious. We do treat those deaths as crime scenes. We do treat those deaths as a potential homicide. When we are called for a death, obviously there's a protocol in place that we use, whether it's a natural death or a suspicious death. Once we arrive at the scene and start investigating that death, then we determine what direction that investigation is going to head. Now, on your typical murder investigation, obviously the different investigators are assembled. Potentially the major case squad is called, and we investigate those deaths for at least a period of 5 days. And more often than not, we are very successful in clearing those cases. By
clearing, you mean actually catching the person who was involved?
Right, by making an arrest. The drug-induced homicides that we continue to investigate, then your world of people that you are looking at are every drug dealer in America. So the avenues in which that we have to investigate those is the history of the person that has been using the drugs, the friends that they've been with, where they're getting their drugs, and then we take the investigation from there. It's very taxing on the manpower in which we investigate those. The manpower that we use in those are obviously taken away from maybe the other investigations that they're working on at those times. So from a law enforcement standpoint, the death investigations that we conduct due to the heroin epidemic, then it's very taxing on law enforcement.
I understand that there have been several cases in 2011 where the very first time somebody has done heroin, they died. This is true?
Well, I don't have the hard fact numbers for you on the first times, but in my experience, I've seen that, yes.
Mm-hmm. And these are people, now I understand also that they don't always start out like in the movies with the needle and cooking this thing. It's this drug is being snorted like cocaine?
It's being snorted, it can be smoked, and I think there's some terminology out there where they call it chasing the dragon, where they'll put it in a spoon and liquefy the substance in the spoon and then heat the spoon up and then inhale the vapors. Also use a needle. I investigated a case last summer where a complaint came in on a house and went down and made contact with the individuals in the house. And the people that were inside the house were on the user end. The dealer was not there. There was evidence of the heroin use inside the home. It was an unreal amount of empty capsules that had been used already, needles in the home. And through one of the conversations I had with one of the users, and she was sober when I made contact with her, her arms were just tore up with needle marks and bruises and those type things. And it was a situation where she had told me that she started out by snorting it, and then somebody introduced her to the needle. And when she started using the needle, that she never went back, that the high was so much more rapid and tremendous that was the reason that she had gone to the needle. So,
and how old was this woman?
She was 21.
Not even really a woman.
Right, and had a child.
And there was a child in the house through this?
The child was not with her, but she had a child.
Mm-hmm.
So someone else was taking care of the child while she was out on her drug addiction for several days.
So what's law enforcement's attitude towards a non-dealer like that?
Well, obviously the law is pretty clear with us. Possession of it is a crime. And we catch you in the possession of it, then we have our responsibility to put you in jail. At that time, then we present the cases to the state's attorney's office, and then it gets into the court system. We don't have the solid voice and the last voice in what happens over in the court system.
Mm-hmm.
Our job's pretty clear. We catch you with it, then it's a crime, and you go to jail.
Well, the state's attorney has been pretty clear in his attitude about let's not plea bargain so much, at least with drug dealers. We're not going to plea bargain that much. What has the court's voice been? What's your experience over the last few years with the courts and what their disposition of users has been?
Well, the courts recognize that there is a problem there, and obviously there's programs in place for those that are addicted. And I would agree right along with State's Attorney Gibbons when there's a line between somebody that's addicted to drugs, whether they're a hardened criminal or it's a sickness. I agree with him on that. But those are things that they don't give us to determine. They tell us that possession of illegal narcotics
mm-hmm.
is a crime, and you have the responsibility to present those cases and bring those into the court system. And you have to have those programs that will operate in society. The law enforcement side of it is that the more we can attack the problem, the more that we can prevent the people that are addicted to the heroin, the more we can prevent the people that are standing on the street corner selling those drugs. The better we are at that, then potentially the better we are for society.
Now, I understand that drugs, or heroin in particular, is pouring into St. Louis, and that then it comes from St. Louis into Madison County. Is that the usual method?
Right, and this is and we may eventually head into where you have a heroin house. But years ago, it used to be when crack became prevalent that you could identify crack houses. If you talked to somebody that was on the user end of the crack and they cooperated with you, they would identify them where you could go get marijuana, where you could go get crack. On the user end of the heroin, we've experienced that the bridges over to St. Louis are being used nonstop by the heroin users, and that most of the heroin that is being brought into this area is coming from the St. Louis area.
Mm-hmm. Now, I also understand that there is a whole moving away from heroin and to a different subject, that there are artificial drugs that are being sold out in the open now that, well, there's like it's a gray area as to whether it's a drug or not. Why don't we talk about that?
Right, and those issues have been around a little while now. The K2, the synthetic marijuana that both sides of the river have either passed city ordinances banning the sale, county ordinances banning the sale, to the point now to where some of those identified chemicals that were being put into those synthetic cannabinoids or synthetic cocaine, that those chemicals have now been identified and banned. But the chemists that maybe are on the non-law enforcement side change their recipe a little bit, and then they just start repackaging what they can sell as herbal or potpourri or any kind of dried plant that they can sell in 1 gram packages to the general public. And we've identified places where they're actually selling those in Madison County.
Now, you told me when you came here that you went to this one place in Madison County and they were ready for you.
Right.
Just explain what you mean by they were ready for you.
The sheriff received a call, and it was yesterday actually, received a call yesterday and
that
was
would
given,
be January 9th.
Right.
Because this is
right.
showing weeks from now.
Yeah, January the 9th. Sheriff Hertz received a complaint of potentially somebody selling items in a back room. So the sheriff and I went down and met with the store employees. The owners were not there. And they were ready. We weren't in the store 30 seconds, and one of the employees was handing the sheriff a 3-ring binder, giving him samples of everything that they're selling in the back room.
And this binder is the one that's sitting here on the.
Exactly.
Why don't you lift that up and let people see this thing. There we are. If you could just zoom out a little bit, camera, just so people can see that. Zoom out all the way and show this whole book. This is very interesting. So they zoom out all the way. There you go. And as you can see, I mean, they handed you this book.
Right. They actually handed the sheriff the book. Obviously, the store was ready for a law enforcement visit. The book was marked with a green tab on the front, law enforcement. And the employees were very versed in what to do when law enforcement shows up. Handed us the book.
So they know they're on the edge here.
They know they're on the edge, and obviously this is the situation that we will deal with.
Just show the front cover here. So they had this.
Right. This was the green sticker that was marked for law enforcement. And then they conveniently also had the attorney's card.
Right, the card right here.
On the top of the book. So,
and then there show some of these packagings right here.
They actually had the lab analysis ready for us. They had a listing of all the items and actually had a sample ready for us.
Here, go down over here and show right over here in this corner right there. Focus on that. There you go. So, and flip a few of those pages so that people can see. These things are just ready to go. They're just being sold over the counter, right?
Exactly.
Now, what do these drugs do?
Well, if you talk to those that are on the user end of these items, obviously you go into the store and they tell you that these things are not for human consumption. The packages are even marked not for human consumption. The store employees will tell you that these are not to be used or smoked or anything as such. But when you do come across those that are on the user end of this, they'll tell you that they're using some of this. They're smoking those items, putting them in pipes. They're smoking those items, some of which they're on other drugs, other chemicals. And about a month ago, our deputies came close to having to shoot and kill a guy as a result of using some of these synthetic chemicals.
Well, I was going to ask if I, or somebody who's not a non-drug user, picked up one of these packages and decided, to make use of that, what happens to them? And you're saying that they can go that nuts?
Well,
and we got about 4 minutes
okay.
left here to the end.
Yeah, obviously I can't tell you what it does to you because I've never used the substance myself. But those that are on the user end of it, the chemical itself, the dried plant itself, I guess would affect different people in different ways depending on what chemical that they may either mix it with or try it with. Mm-hmm. So that's the problems that we're dealing with.
Coming back to the students one more time, and drugs. There are organizations now that are reaching out to the schools. You're part of that organization. What is it you're trying to do, and what progress do you think you're making with students?
You never know. It's one of those situations to where you don't know if you've saved somebody from becoming a drug addict because they never did become one.
Right.
You hope that by putting the education out there that you're making a difference. Obviously, if we weren't putting the education out there, then people wouldn't know that it would be harmful to use these type things. So,
are some of these kids that shallow that they really don't understand that this is bad for you, or that it has what might be called dilatory effects upon your body?
I think there's those that are out there, they're going to do what they want to do no matter what you tell them and how many alarms you set off. Hopefully, we will start seeing a decrease in the heroin deaths that we're investigating as time goes on.
I mean, is there alarm yet in the student community or not?
Yeah, I believe so. I think the education factor is out there that, if you use it, that you could potentially die. I think that's happening. Mm-hmm. But obviously those that have said, I won't use heroin, are not dialing our phone and telling us to check their name off that they've made that decision. So mm-hmm. we hope that we're making a difference.
Mm-hmm. And there has been a real explosion of deaths. I mean, a large number of deaths in Madison County in 2011 and already here in 2012, right?
Right. And I would expect that in 2012 that we'll continue to see it. The only thing I can hope for is that as we are doing our jobs better pertaining to the heroin, that we will slowly start seeing a decrease in those mm-hmm. deaths.
Well, I hope that that's going to be the case too, because I've actually known somebody that died from a heroin overdose. This is a number of years ago, and it was like shocking to me. And I had no idea that this person was involved, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're dead. Too late.
Right.
Thank you very much for being with us. We do appreciate having you with us and you spending the time talking to the public. And I've been speaking with Major Brad Wells of the Madison County Sheriff's Department. We had two conversations here, one about child abductions and Amber Alerts and drugs. And parents, you need to have that talk with your kids. See you all next week. Thanks.